how I implemented Andrew Huberman's sauna protocol, 3 times at least 10 minutes after strength training to decrease mortality. After listening to the Huberman episodes on sauna, especially the reduction in all-cause mortality, I began to first then consciously try to find ways to implement the mentioned protocol. I began my sauna protocol about 3 weeks ago. Before, I was once, as a child, in a not steam and not infrared sauna, aka the normal one. At home growing up, we had an infrared one, which I used maybe 25 to 75 times total, but it only went up to 60 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Not 100, but 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Quoting Andrew Huberman on sauna. Regular use of sauna can improve cardiovascular health. Laukanen et al. Found that through regular use of sauna, participants reduced their risk of cardiovascular events, stroke, that led to death. This paper found that increasing the frequency and length of sauna sessions subsequently decreased the long-term risk of cardiovascular disease. Further, the use of sauna has been studied by other clinical groups and positively correlated with a reduction in all-cause mortality, a catch-all term referring to death from any cause. Hubermanlab.com. When moving last year, I included gym with sauna nearby in my criteria. Luckily, I found one. The idea was to get both strength training as well as sauna in one session, only 1 times the packing, transport to gym, thereby implementing sauna as an add-on habit. Huberman's sauna protocol. Speaking about the first one. Protocol 1. Sauna for cardiovascular health. In order to use the benefit cardio... This is again quoting from Huberman's blog or website. In order to use sauna to benefit cardiovascular health, try the following protocol. Heat the sauna to a temperature in the range of 80 to 100 degrees Celsius, 126 to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Note, your personal heat tolerance should determine the actual temperatures. Try to stay in the sauna anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes per session and repeat the use of sauna from 2 to 3 times per week, as often as 7 times per week. More often does appear to be better with respect to cardiovascular health. In short, 80 to 100 degrees Celsius, 176 to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 to 20 minutes per session, and repeat the use of sauna from 2 to 3 times per week or as often as 7 times per week. In order to implement this properly, I ideally would only implement it once. Avoid overdoing in the beginning to increase long-term adherence. Therefore, it had to fit somewhere in my ideal weekly sports or health plan. That in short includes 6 hours and 20 minutes of sleep, which I hit seldom due to various sleep inefficiencies. Morning, 10 minutes of daily morning interval running starting at 6 a.m. The whole slot lasts 30 minutes, including changing and showering cold after evening. 1 hour of total time for sports, therefore ideally 40 minutes of working out, 10 minutes of showering after, 10 minutes of changing before. Due to changing packing distance to gym, on average I hit about 30 to 40 minutes of the actual workout time. Conclusion, ideally about 50 minutes of work time daily. I also try to be otherwise somewhat active, standing desk, biking ideally, all short distances. Here I included in the blog post a picture of my daily schedule, which is not that accurate anymore since I'm currently in the process of experimenting with it again, because the old system seemed to have some inefficiencies. Concerns with the sauna implementation. Conceiving. To sum it up for all the people who are just listening, I usually sleep from midnight till 4 and then in the day again from 12 till 2 p.m. or from noon to 2 p.m. But it often doesn't work. Concerns with the sauna implementation. Conceiving. I think I once heard from Huberman, but couldn't find it. For men trying to conceive with the partner, ideally 6 months before to stop sauna due to the effect on decreasing sperm quality. I found here a study, seminal and molecular evidence that sauna exposure affects human spermatogenesis. I think that was the study that was also linked by Huberman. I'm not entirely sure. The summary answer. Scrotal hyperthemia by exposure to sauna can induce a significant alteration of spermatogenesis. Too much relaxation. I had showered cold for years at this point, about 3 to 5 years. I also did cold and ice baths and was concerned that allowing that much warmth or heat from the sauna would make the cold exposure significantly harder due to the anecdotal evidence from bathing hot, showering hot, and infrared sauna. Luckily, there is a new study mentioning the negative effect on hypertrophy strength, not so much for cold showers, but rather for cold immersion, also mentioned by Huberman. I only showered a single time this summer, warm, unfortunately breaking my cold chain. hundreds of points strong. I did emphasize the sentence a little bit wrongly. So I only showered a single time this summer warm. I only showered warm this summer one time within the last 3 or 4 years. Otherwise, every single shower was cold. Even when sick, after cold exposure, shivering for hours, I didn't shower warm or take a warm bath. Once a habit like this is broken, a chain lasting for hundreds of showers, the decision building for turn the shower hot or cold, built on years of discipline or habit, might begin to crumble. Time. 10 to 20 minutes at 3 times per week results in 30 to 60 minutes of pure time spent in sauna. In addition, getting a towel, showering a second time, maybe some chatting could increase the bulk of my overall evening sports health time significantly. One of the main premises why I can allow myself to spend this much time doing sports, which in the short term cost one compared to using the exact time to work, for example, always was that it had to be inefficient. It had to be efficient, obviously. I came up with the following plan. Since I already was in the changing rooms of the gym at least ideally 3 times per week, I would attach the new sauna habit to the gym habit. This has the main benefit that I increase the time bulk of the whole evening block only slightly due to the high efficiency mostly gained by location time being identical to the end of my gym habit. I would therefore not have to pack my bag and walk or run bike to the sauna location another 3 times per week. Apart from an additional shower, the few meters to the sauna, the time increase was probably 1-to-1 sauna time, maybe 10 minutes increase, 10 minutes actual time in sauna. This also meant that on the other days, my not strength days, I would do cold exposure, example river, lake after run. Unfortunately, the gym does not offer a cold bath, only cold showers, which probably aren't cooled, therefore colder in winter, warmer in summer due to the pipe water temperature correlating to outside temperature. In terms of length, I would do just 10 minutes in the beginning. I assume my heat adaptation was, apart from activities in summer outside, not that good. How it worked out. I began about 3 weeks ago with 10 minutes after each strength session. I usually showered about 1 to 2 minutes, 3 times pressing the button in the gym, cold after the session, or run back home, then shower cold. Despite more and more evidence against my, at this point, year-long practices of showering cold after every evening training, possibly reducing the beneficial inflammation from training, therefore decreasing the strength and hypertrophy adaptation, I kept this habit up. Turns out showers are fine, cold baths afterward might not be. So Huberman here talks about cold immersion when he summarized the study in a recent podcast as a preamble to the actual podcast. The cold showers, unfortunately, at least currently, do put me in a slightly cool state in which I barely begin to sweat in the first 10 minutes. If I then go out after 10 minutes, I have barely sweat. I still do not consider eliminating the cold shower as an option, since breaking this habit, I presume, would come with an overall net negative. Sauna for sure offers benefits, but I think risking the over the years and experience proven benefits of daily cold exposure, for me at least, might not be worth it. In order to benchmark my current heat adaptation, I did a max duration test. Result 25 minutes. With my cooled body, sweat instead of showering, water still on my skin, began to fall down in between 5 to 10 minutes. The max duration test was not planned, but I just decided to see how long I would last. At about minute 15, I began to notice the bottom of my feet not being able to release heat any longer. Hands and feet act somewhat as a heat exchangers for the body, so I began to turn my feet slightly. I also kept my hands open. Sitting versus laying in the sauna could also have an effect on the possible maximum duration. Laying, the back has ideally only a few contact points similar to water slides, but the front of the body has a lot of skin exposed, therefore allowing for greater heat exchange compared to sitting. What also has to be mentioned is the material the sauna is made out of. If it's wood, then it's fairly insulating to heat. If it's something like tiles, then they might not be as insulating and maybe actually get rid of a little bit more heat if you attach your feet or palms to it. On the other side, sitting only has 2 feet as well as the bottom as contact points. At 17:30, at minute 17 and 30 seconds, I looked at my Garmin watch for the first time, which I used to stop up until then. My strategy was to wait as long as possible without knowing the time, buffering the reward. I then decided to try 20 minutes, since only 20 minutes away. My heart rate began to become noticeable. I usually can feel as well as hear it, provided I wear earplugs in ears, which I didn't. I saw my heart rate reaching first 150, then around 160, reaching zone 4. At minute 20, I decided to try some more. In the blog post, I included a graphic in which you can see my heart rate beginning from about 90 and then basically almost in a linear fashion going up to at max 160. Minutes 22 to 25 felt a little longer than the ones before. I began to become more alert. In the beginning, I usually closed my eyes, tried to somewhat meditate, more or less naturally due to the higher heart rate, my body keeping me more and more alert maybe, but also the increasing executive control. Buddy, how about getting out? I began to increasingly glance at my watch. I could have stayed a little longer, but I didn't. But I didn't want sauna to become too associated with intensity and stress in order to keep up a long-term adherence. I also don't want the sauna habit to take too much time through increasingly staying longer in order to not have to question it that much. Huberman offers 2 more protocols. Protocol 2, Sauna for General Health. The summary: total of 1 hour per week, 2 to 3 sessions. The temperature range, again the same, 80 to 100 degrees Celsius and 176 to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Quoting from Huberman'S website, newsletter or blog post, which are all the same in this regard. In order to gain the benefits of deliberate heat exposure for general health, including improved mood, stress management, and the enhancements of the body's hormetic mild stress response pathways, use sauna for a total of 1 hour per week, but not all at once. Rather split that into 2 or 3 sessions. The sauna temperature should be between 80 to 100 degrees Celsius, 126 to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Protocol 2. Sauna for General Health. Since Protocol 2 is already somewhat included in Protocol 1, there is no real need to discuss this further, in my view. The lower end of the Protocol 1 includes the Protocol 2. Protocol 3, Sauna for Growth Hormone Release. Use the sauna infrequently, once per week or less. Multiple sessions of 30 minutes each with cool-down periods in between. A semi-fasted state. To further increase metabolic gains, alternate periods of sauna with the deliberate cold exposure during the rest periods. Now again quoting from Huberman'S website. Protocol 3, Sauna for Growth Hormone Release. To use sauna for improved release of growth hormone, use the sauna infrequently, once per week or less. However, those days you do sauna, you will be in the sauna for multiple sessions of 30 minutes each, with cool-down periods in between. Peer-reviewed research says this protocol works well to increase growth hormone. 30 minutes in the sauna, then cool off outside sauna for 5 minutes, then 30 minutes more in the sauna, then cool off a few hours or more. Later in the day, you repeat that for a total of 4 30-minute sessions of sauna in one day. That's a lot. In order to get the maximum growth hormone release, use the sauna in a semi-fasted state, having not ingested food for 2 to 3 hours prior. Lower blood glucose level encourage growth hormone release. This is also true for daily growth hormone release during sleep. Listen for more tips to encourage daily growth hormone release. A link was attached here in the blog post. Again, this protocol works best if only used once every week or so. More frequent sauna has other effects, but will blunt the growth hormone increasing effects. To further increase metabolic gains, alternate periods of sauna with deliberate cold exposure during the rest periods. Read more about specific protocols for cold exposure. Again, a link was attached. Back to the blog. I do not yet have a proper plan to implement this. Huberman himself does 1 session of this 1 time per week, as seen in his foundational fitness protocol, also published on his blog or website or newsletter. Now, the part where he does sauna is, I think he does it Tuesdays, but in the foundational fitness protocol we only find it as 1 entry into the foundational fitness protocol, which focuses on 1 thing daily. So we have heat and cold exposure recovery day 3 on Tuesday, as also mentioned apparently here. Sauna 20 minutes plus ice bath. Here he now says 20 minutes, which apparently are not the 30 minutes he mentioned earlier in his protocol 3. Shower 5 minutes for the bath or cold, repeat 3 to 5 times. Start slowly when using deliberate heat and cold exposure. Exercise examples: heat exposure protocol and the cold exposure protocol. Source: Foundational Fitness Protocol on hubermanlab.com. Substituting an entire evening sports hour for sauna and cold seemed not that useful to me. The cold and hot contrast protocol seems useful and also could be used as a social activity, but here are a few concerns. Thoughts on protocol number 3 implementation. Through the cold, hot, cold contrast created by my 1 to 2 minute showers before and after the 3 times per week sauna session, I already have somewhat of a mini version of this. In addition, I heat up, especially during workouts in the summer already before, therefore a hot, cold contrast, one could argue. Another question is to which extent Huberman's wave pool analogy for dopamine, mentioned by a guest on the Huberman lab, also applies to other hormones as well. How much growth hormone do I really need? Similar to dopamine, a peaking hormone could have benefits. But if I overload my system on one day, let's say if I choose Sunday, my free evening hour, often I choose to skate, free run, climb, boulder here, I replace one of my activities with it. Or Saturday, where I currently mix up additional strength exercises, rotating depending on current focus or need, and get some growth hormone, which probably doesn't last through the entire week. So it would only be a momentary increase, you could say. But if that, similar to the dopamine analogy, then means that the wave pool for the rest of the week is on a lower level, so I would have lower levels of growth hormone, I don't know if the relation is as such, but it could be that the body then regulates the growth hormone for these other periods, maybe lower, but that's just thinking. Therefore, just in terms of time investment, it seems to not make too much sense. In summary, finally I was able to implement a yet-to-be stabilized heat exposure routine, independent from unwilling heat exposure in the summer due to no cooling at higher temperatures. Strength training, running, biking at 30 degrees Celsius often left me somewhat reddish in the face. Setting the minimum habit at 3 times of 10 minutes per week seems reasonable, primarily due to the almost non-existent setup cost. I yet have to find a proper replacement for cold exposure, currently only about 1 time weekly in winter after my weekly run on Tuesdays. Protocol number 3 seemingly has currently not really a well-fitting place in my weekly plan, and the upper limit in terms of duration seems to be between 15 to 25 minutes, deducting maybe 5 to 10 minutes for the buffered cold from the cold showers. Since writing this post, I changed it up a bit. So previously 3 times per week with the strength exercises, but now I'm currently switching to morning workouts in which and in this time frame the sauna doesn't have open, and it also wouldn't make that much sense to go into the sauna in the morning due to the circadian rhythm that basically, so if you go into the sauna, the core temperature seems to go lower afterwards, which makes you kind of sleepy, so therefore it should be better in the evening, or would be better in the evening. In the morning, you would do basically cold exposure, in the evening heat exposure, even though now you also do some cold exposure in the evening with the sauna. So what I've switched to, because in the morning, again, the sauna hasn't open, and also my gym on Saturday does not have open in the morning, but I do have to go to the gym also on Saturdays, as I mentioned here, because I do various strength exercises kind of in a rotating fashion. What I have come up with is that I just do it now sauna once, and I don't do it during the week, but just on Saturdays. And at least on the last Saturday, the first Saturday I tried this, I just did my normal strength workout there, and then afterwards I just went into the sauna, but I allowed myself to do it a little bit longer, because I also now have the accumulated 3 times 10 minutes, or maybe it's 3 times 20 minutes, because I actually need some more time also to shower during the week if I go into the sauna. So I basically get rid of 2 times the additional shower, and also 2 times running into the sauna and getting your backpack ready and then closing your locker again, and so on and so forth. So this might also save some time if I only do it in 1 session a week. This effectively now means I switched from protocol 1 to protocol 3, but I currently only have 1 session, and it's not entirely protocol 3. It's just a very small version of protocol 3, because again, as I mentioned, during the workout I already am kind of warm already. My body begins to warm up, especially in summer. I begin to sweat already. Then I do cold showers, 1 to 2 minutes, and then I go into the sauna, which I now can be in a little bit longer, because before it was kind of a direct competition to what else I could do in the evening, because the longer I stayed in the sauna every single minute, or if I stayed 10 minutes longer, and I did this in the beginning a few times, I stayed 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and the reason I did say it should only be at least or not at least, but it should only be 10 minutes, is that my workout in the evening would not get too long. If I start at 6 and then I go into the sauna, then I would often be only back at 7:30, so it would already take 90 minutes in total, or maybe it would be even longer if I talk to somebody there. So what is also nice is that I now have less relaxation within the week, because I somewhat consider sauna as relaxation, and I do not need that much relaxation within the week. It kind of just makes me feel too lazy, I think. So having it 1 time per week on Saturdays, which I similarly kind of did already as a child. I used to go into a warm bath or a hot bath on Saturdays after a kind of a longer day with with physical work often. So this also kind of fits my frame into the Saturday being a maybe physical work day, and then in the evening working out strength training, and then going into kind of wellness or the sauna in this regard. What I might try is the actual not strength, but hormone optimization protocol. So I might try today to go into the sauna at least 2 times, maybe also 3 times. But since there is no cold plunge, only a cold shower outside in the wellness spa of my fitness or gym, I cannot do the protocol really properly, but I can cool off in between. So I might do at least 2 sessions in the sauna, maybe 3, and then see how that goes. And it seems like I will be sticking to the morning workouts during the week, because there seems to be these seem to have a better impact kind of on my day.